pretty much most of your 30s, you are in deep conversation about where is this thing going and your life, you know. And I think, like, for me, a performer about 32, which is about 10 years ago, I was really just was like, oh, what am I trying to do with this? Sometimes, like, when I go to a therapist, I've met her halfway.
Okay, I get you.
I'm like, oh yeah, kind of. In your adult life, sometimes.
Yeah,
it takes a great deal of sophistication and just understanding yourself for you to grasp a lot of concepts about your actual self.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of, like, honest discussions that are uncomfortable. I generally think, like, I'm constantly working on myself, and then the therapist definitely puts it in place. Like, just go, oh, okay, cool. The therapist is going to make you understand yourself. They're not going to make you a better human being. You're an asshole. That's it, bro.
Yeah. Welcome to the Listen to Your Footsteps podcast. I'm your host, Kojo Baffoe. In this podcast, I speak to Africans from across a multitude of sectors, including business, art, culture, media, design, technology, advertising, and everything in between, delving into their journeys and reflecting on the lessons they have learned along the way. It's about gaining insight into why and how they do what they do. These conversations offer a treasure trove of takeaways on a wide range of topics, including craft, relationships, wellness, parenting, entrepreneurship, and much more. So my guest today is stand-up and TV comedian Loyiso Gola. He's a two-time Emmy-nominated comedian, has been involved in culture-shaping productions like The Pure Monate Show and Late Night News with Loyiso Gola, and performed across the globe. Thanks for coming through, bro.
Thanks for having me, bro.
So you grew up in Gugulethu, correct?
We moved out of Gugulethu in 1993.
How old were you?
I was probably 10. So I haven't lived there since, but until about 99, I was like, always with my friends in the hood. Yeah.
So if I'd met you at 10 or 11, kind of when you were still like straddling, and I asked you what you want to be when you grow up, what would your answers been?
I want to play for Orlando Pirates. That was my thing. I just wanted to play for. If I played for Orlando Pirates, I would have been the happiest person in the world. I love Pirates, and I just wanted to play for them. That was it.
Any good?
I was at that age. You believe you're good, but I wasn't. I was nowhere near. But you know what's interesting is, like, I think when I was in high school, I figured out that the things that make you good at a thing are not the things that you expect of yourself. Like, for instance, I was playing in high school, and I remember I wasn't the best player in my team. And we this is high school, and I'm probably going to say it's 1998, 99. And we play with my school. It's like a friendly game or league, I'm not sure. And then one of the coaches of just a scout or whatever says to me, hey, man, just come to Hellenic. We're having trials. Just come. Then I was like, what? It's like, just come. And I never went because I told my friends and they laughed. They're like, what? You? And then I was like, oh, I get it now that, like, the things that people consider versus what the team considers are two different things. It's like what I have in my mind as to what it takes and what they see are two different things. Even as human beings, though, it happens. How people see you and how you receive yourself and how you actually are could be three different things. And that is, like, borderline delusional.
But I mean, it's like, I guess that's the reason why you have coaches and directors and all of these things, because it's about, I may see something in you that you don't quite see yourself.
Yes.
And I mean, like, I have children, so with children especially, I experience that where I see something in my children, but they don't see it.
Yes,
right? Because I've had life experience and I've been in different spaces, and I'm seeing a trait about them. I mean, my son played football at a younger age, and at school they put him as a defender because he was a big boy, but he has an eye for a pass. And he preferred to play on the right wing. And when he was doing kind of not academy, but outside of school, the coaches could see that. But
Yeah.
he could never, like,
He could never, yeah.
we don't have that level of self-awareness
Self-awareness,
and
yeah.
reflection at that age.
No, even in your adult life sometimes.
Yeah,
It takes a great deal of sophistication and just understanding yourself for you to grasp a lot of concepts about your actual self.
Yeah.
Yeah. It takes a lot of like honest discussions that are uncomfortable.
Do you have those
all the
with
time?
yourself?
Yeah,
I mean, particularly now and kind of having experienced your comedy. So once again, perception, like where it feels very deliberate and very thought through. But how did you get to that point?
I mean, as I was like in my 30s, you're pretty much most of your 30s, you are in deep conversation about where is this thing going and your life, you know. And I think like for me, from about 32, which is about 10 years ago, I was really just was like, oh, what am I trying to do with this? What am I trying to attain? So I would really, really be having these conversations. Like if I would have like maybe like a homophobic thought. I'd be like, where does that come from? Or like you just kind of like, yeah, or if someone had like I'm like, why would I consume that? Why do I not have the confidence to approach this person? Where does that come from? So I spent like a lot of time trying to figure that out. Like, oh, okay. Oh yeah, that could be that. Sometimes like when I go to a therapist, I've met her halfway.
Okay, I get you.
I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Because she's like, oh, then I'm like, yeah, okay, cool. I kind of thought about that, but I don't have the professional accruements to sort of see that through, you know.
Random, like how is the experience of therapy for you? And I say that because so I started therapy very late. So I journal every day. And when you talk about meeting halfway, I was finding that like during the week, because I journal every morning, during the week, like I'm journaling. And then when I'd go in my session on Friday, it felt like a continuation of those conversations that I was having in my journal. And I reached a point where I was just like I'm gonna break now, because I'm like, I don't know whether I'm still trying to make sense of the value of the experience.
Yes.
Versus because I'm doing all of that stuff in my journal, and then I felt like I'm just going into a session to repeat all the stuff I've been pondering on the page.
I'm not that I'm not like that involved in sort of trying to be facilitating of my sessions in that way. I think when I say I was thinking or questioning myself, it was just things I was doing regardless. But I have like, I mean, the science of therapy is about, I don't know, what, 90 years old. And I don't think we should place our lives in the technology of 90 years or like 80 years. That's a very like risky. I think like as human beings, I do still find value in it, but I do find great deal of value, but I also find value in understanding where humans are actually from and how humans function, and just like trying to really understand the human condition more than anything.
Yeah.
And like therapists put things in, they are trained to sort of help you. I clean my house probably every second day, but there's someone who comes in every other day and cleans it properly.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter how diligent I am about my cleaning, that person just will always clean it better than me because she's done it longer or whatever the case may be. And that's how I view therapy.
It's about putting in, I guess it's about putting in the work, right?
Yeah. I bet. Thank you. Cool, thanks. Yeah, cool.
How did you how do you end up in comedy?
It was a high school project, really. I was in high school, I was 17, and the teacher, Warren Navy, he's last time I checked, he was the head of head of drama at Wits now. And yeah, he was my drama teacher, and he was kind of like, yo, you need to do stand-up. And how it came about, it was Mark Lotrin came to my school, and when he came to my school, they just needed someone to warm up the kids. And then he asked me, I was like, nah. And then he was like, just do it. And I did it. And then he was like, oh, you should do stand-up. Like after that, like I warmed up for him. He was like, yo, you need to do stand-up. Then I was like, okay, maybe. But I still was just like, whatever.
What did that look like, warming up for him? I mean, you get up on stage and then what?
I mean,
do you remember?
I don't think. I do remember like snippets of it. Like I do remember like just purely being. Remember, like I'm in school with these kids. Like it's my school. It's just kids I'm in school with. So I'm with them like 200 days of the year. So I know them. So I know, what like the stoner kid or the jock and the teacher. We had a teacher, Miss Ngosi, who was like a librarian, and she was absolutely pedantic about her books, and she didn't, So I was kind of talking about those kind of things, and if the stoner gave some of the weed to Miss Ngosi, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know how or why I understood joke structure. I don't know. I just did. I just kind of put those words together, and then it was a funny idea, and I was like, oh, okay, cool. Sorry. I think sorry.
How do you then decide, or what's the thinking where you decide that this is what you're going to pursue? I mean, you come out of high school.
Oh, so
come out of high school, and then what?
Nah, because I start. So what happens is in between that's I'm in grade 11 at the time, and that's 2 years before high school ends. So I repeated grade 11, so there was about 3 years till the end of high school. So we used to have this thing called job shadow. You just follow some people around, and if you like the career, you kind of dive into it in a way. And my drama teacher's like, yo, you got to do stand-up. And I still didn't care for it, and was like, yo, just do it. And I tried it, and I just was like, okay, cool, this is it. I'm hooked, let's go. And that's how I started. But it was the nightlife that was, at the time, a bit of a problem, because I'm in high school and all the gigs at night. But other than that, I was like, oh, no, this is it for me. This is what I want to do. I decided like a month in, I was like, this is what I want to do with my life and time. And I just kind of dedicated my time towards that.
But it was also a time when comedy wasn't as developed, especially in this country. I mean, we can discuss how developed it actually is.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't.
It wasn't a
thing. There were people who had careers, but I remember when you're young, those are not the considerations you have. I'm 19, leaving high school, and that's not the consideration I have. The consideration I have is that I can do this. I found something I'm good at. I'm going to pursue it. And then, I was pursuing it. But I was also pursuing it in a time where the country is shaping itself. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, even now I still tell people like, yo, you're 19, do the thing you want to do. Because at 42, it's hard to sort of pivot into obscurity. Like if you're like, oh, if you told your wife you're stopping everything, you want to make spoons, that conversation becomes a bit crazy. Yeah. So, but if you're 19, be like, yeah, do it, man. So that was the spirit of like, yo, no, actually do it. Just do it.
And at home, like, what was the view from family?
I'm also not like from like a upper middle class house. So upper middle class houses, there's an expectation for you to pursue university. But that was an expectation for me. But if I said no, it's not the end of the world. The way I'd experienced a lot of my upper middle class friends who, if they said they're not going to university, the families, they're like, oh, he's a delinquent or whatever. It wasn't that. It was like, it also has to do with the fact that in high school, I'm still doing this thing. by the time I finished school, I'm like, I've been on TV, I'm earning my own money, I've got enough money to kind of like leave home, which is crazy. A lot of people don't necessarily have, as much as the industry wasn't big the way it is now, I had enough money to actually buy a flight to Joburg and leave my house after school. So that kind of communicates a different idea. So a lot of people would, a lot of kids would be like, I don't want to do this, but they haven't activated any other.
Yeah.
They still, like the person who pays your bills is the person who kind of has a say. It's not, they get to have this conversation with you. But if you you get to say, oh, this is what I've decided to do, or I've raised this kind of money, I'm gonna stay here, this is my plan. And most of the time people are more like, oh, okay, cool. You kind of have this figured out. So that was my plan.
You looked at it as you looked at the career aspect of it and the foundation you can create with it, as opposed to just, oh, I'm going to be on TV and stand on stages.
No, bro, I'm 19. I'm 19, 20. You're applying considerations of like a 40, 50-year-old. I'm 19, bro. I found something I like. I'm out of here. Does that make it's as simple as that? It's not, I don't think I was thinking further than that. But I was very lucky because the Pure Monate show happens as I leave school. So it makes sense. Like now I'm on TV. Now it's cool. Now you know what I mean? So it's a very interesting time for me, and a lot of things are happening. But I'm not these considerations are where I'm just like, let's go, let's move. Just be as funny as possible. Just get on stage. Just, be in the mix of this comedy culture that's brewing.
My lens is also slightly different because for me, it was 15, 16 years old.
Okay.
Sitting down with my father. Well, my father sat me down.
Yes.
And went, what's the plan?
Yes.
So at 15, 16, I already knew I was going to university. There was no option of not going to university. I knew what I was going to study.
Yes.
And to a certain extent, I knew what I was going to do when I finished studying, because I was going to work with my father in the family businesses.
Yes.
And I was already working in the family businesses during holidays and stuff. So at 15, because I had to think that through, I guess I didn't have the liberty of just going, hey, let me just try this out. Which ironically I did in my 20s.
Okay.
Like I did later on in my 20s. I mean, we're talking kind of mid 20s to my 30s, where I then kind of went, actually, I want to try this.
Okay.
Without considering kind of career, foundation, all of that stuff. So I had this, I guess my period happened a lot later than yours. Which is why my lens is influenced then by that.
Yes. No. I definitely was like, charges go. I don't have bills. I don't have crazy bills. I don't have kids. I don't have these things that sort of make me consider a lot of things. And I'm just like, let's go. So that was I'm a teenager.
Did you therefore lay the foundation for your brother?
Brother's 5 years younger than me.
Was it easier for him, do you think?
I think by the time my brother started doing stand-up, because he also wasn't like, my brother went to university, all that kind of stuff, but then he's probably, matter of fact, probably like 8 years after, and by then things are totally different.
Yeah.
I see how that could be a thing. It's definitely a thing. I actually have never discussed it. I've never but when I was younger, if you watch second season of Pure Monate, because he used to come visit me during the holidays in Joburg, and we were shooting the Pure Monate show, and he was just in a lot of sketches.
Yeah.
he was just there shooting. Tsepo's younger brothers and my younger brothers were all there, school holiday, and they were in the sketches. So it was like a fun time. I think also that's how he kind of got seduced by this world of like, I'm not, when I requested the sandwich, I was really like, I want to eat. But now that we're talking, I'm like, I might eat afterwards. And whoever probably went to go get the sandwich now is looking at me going,
Oh, good.
this guy.
What was, I mean, the Pure Monate show is, at least for those of us old enough to have been there, did kind of shift, it shifted culture. It was at a time when the landscape was also shifting. And as a group, as a collective, it felt like you guys had come together and plugged into, a kind of zeitgeist of the time. How did that come about?
It was Kagiso's baby. He had like shot a pilot of it. And I was in high school and he had been sitting on it for 2 years. And when I finished high school, this is when this thing popped. That's when SABC kind of picked it up. And yeah. And at the time, those were pretty much all the comics that were working in the country in that way. There were maybe like another, but these guys are the working black acts of the time. And yeah, and my recollection of it is just a bunch of dudes just having so much fun. I mean, also, it kind of misled me a little bit into how life on set is. Life on set was a fun thing, and then you get to another set and the director's tense. You're like, brother, we're not saving the world here. We're just trying to get a scene, like relax. in a way, where Pure Monate, everything, we would just had so much fun all the time. We would party together, would wake up and write. We were just always in each other's lives, and we'd attend each other's birthdays. We were just like a group of friends who just were able to create stuff seamlessly with each other. Yeah, it was really fun.
It was also a case of, because you don't know the rules of this thing.
Yes,
you're making them up.
Yes,
and that's where I guess it's on the edges that sometimes innovation happens. Right?
Yeah, I think none of us had written sketches, so we didn't even know how to write them in terms of length. So there was a time we would have to read the sketch, and then someone would time it. But we didn't know there was a way like you could go, page a minute. These are the considerations. Now but then it was like, sometimes it would be like someone would come up, like we would be, we've shot everything. We need can we do it? We've still got some light during the day. Can we shoot something in this corner? Can you guys riff something? Boom. And it was, it was that kind of level. There was like, we wrote a lot of the sketches, but about maybe 20%, 15% of them would just riff because we had the time, or we needed a sketch, or can we get something that's going to link this sketch and this sketch? And we'll go, okay, cool. Sit there in that corner. And we'd literally just get someone to go to costume. We'll take up something. You'd find like a fireman, a hat, and you go, boom, let's go. This is the sketch. Let's go. Silly. So it was fun. It was really fun.
Are there bloopers of those? Does anybody have kind of video bloopers?
I don't know. You have to speak to Kagiso. I was really not involved in like editing, I was just a writer actor. I was literally 19, bro. I was 20 years old when that day. Like for me, I'm like, the only time I ever went into an edit room was to check if my name was spelled right in credit. And then the rest of the time I was like, I don't need to be here. There were people who spent a lot of time in edit and trying to figure out their sketches were being edited properly. I'm like, I don't give a shit. Like, I wrote the thing, I saw it being shot, whatever, let's go. Let's move. Goom, goom, goom. Yeah, it was cool. That was a good time.
And late night news? Because that was a couple of years later.
Late night news
a couple of years later.
Late night news is 2010. we actually, Late Night News was supposed to air May 2010, but clever person was like, during the World Cup, you want to be on air while France is playing Germany, you want to, are you crazy? So we only started September because we were like we didn't care. I was supposed to do, I was getting approached to do show, like they'll be like, I was auditioning for like big DSTV shows, like if they were like, whether it's Amazing, and they would really want me to do the thing. Like even Idols, one point, someone was like, yo, you want to host Idols? Then I did want to host Idols. But the catch is I knew how grueling that schedule was because when I was coming up, I was friends with Colin Moss. And he was like, that schedule is fucking crazy. You do not want to, like you know what I mean? And I had it like, and I was like, I don't know if that's how I want to live my life. I don't want to be in the middle of Witbank talking to people who can't sing. That's not how I want to spend my day. And so as these ideas of, as I'm getting these offers to do various things, I was like, well, let me just create what I want to create with my friends. And that's how I came about Late Night News. I was like, okay, let me figure it out. I shot a pilot, shopped it around. ENCA was interested. They actually kind of got on it immediately. CBC was dilly-dallying. Other people were like, I was like, okay, ENCA is in, boom, let's go. ETV and ENCA kind of went home. And then it was great. I had an amazing relationship with them. Yeah, it was great, man. I mean, they allowed us to just go, go insane. They would pull us back sometimes. They'd be like, yo, man, that's a bit hectic. But it wasn't like, it had nothing to do with like, it had to do, I mean, I remember the first time they told us to like sort of pull something was like a very bizarre story of a teacher who had like, I don't know, I think like assaulted a kid, and we just had a joke about it. And they were like, nah, this is not I don't think this is, you have to kind of approach this with a little bit of sensitivity. And at the time, we're like, no, man, let's just let the jokes fly. And retrospectively, I'm like, that was a good call because, it allowed us to be known as sort of like a place where human beings could be frustrated with the government and feel heard, as opposed to as opposed to like, the jokes. Let's hear the joke. They were like, let's hear the take and let's hear I mean, halfway through the shooting, I also realized that people really wanted to hear your take. The thing is happening. So in America, they've kind of figured out that culture of like, people they want Letterman or they want Fallon or they want the Daily Show to say something. They do. They tune in and be like, oh, okay, cool. So it kind of, in a way, governs how people react to whatever the hell is happening around you. So I caught on like maybe halfway. I'm like, oh, this is what this thing is. So the jokes have to be kind of padded with a great deal of sensitivity, because our take is not necessarily inconsistent, but it vacillates.
Yeah.
Right? Like our politics are definitely probably left, but the left is probably going to do some wild shit that we have to call out. So we have to you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Setting yourself up for the next, so, and that is tone.
But also, I mean, I've always believed there's a responsibility in that.
Yeah.
Like you're saying, you need to recognize that things have to be dealt with. There's a certain element of sensitivity attached to it.
Yes.
And what was great about that show and some of the, the American shows, for example, that you talk about, is is finding that balance between responsibility, sensibility, sensitivity, as well as a perspective. Even if it's a left field perspective, it's not a conventional perspective.
Yes.
But it's one that makes me think about this thing.
Yes.
And often presented in a humorous way, but not, it's humorous, but not judgmental, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. For me, it's like, so we were always towing that line of like, these people. I mean, it also started getting weird. People started exposing stories in like emails. We're like, yo, that's not what we do. The story has to be in the news. We don't break stories. We just talk about what's happening in the news, and we use the news format to do that. So this thing of like thinking that there's money being stolen in Harango and now we have to be involved. I don't. So we want whistleblowers.
To a certain extent, you're ahead of your time. I mean,
I don't know what that
that
entails.
Particularly for, let's say, South African television. There's a phase. I mean, there was a time when, you know, we had talk shows coming up. People were trying to figure out talk shows. But to a certain extent, you know, other than, for example, Nolene's show, maybe a Felicia Mabuza Subtle, eventually all of those kind of faded by the wayside. And I mean, I've always personally lamented because I always enjoyed that kind of storytelling.
That format, okay.
That format, where it felt like we're on track to kind of get these kind of shows, and then it all died out.
Don't know why. I mean, I also wish that I'd passed that thing on. Because I think like we just need a thing like that. Just in South Africa, just floating and existing. But now it's like there's a world of podcasts. And podcasts are cool, but it's little pockets of it. It's like people can really zoom into what they care for. They're like, oh, that's my guy. You know what I mean? It's like a bizarre thing. Guys got 15 loyal people or 20,000. He's like, okay, man. Which I find those people get trapped by those people because those people don't want them to change because that's why they like them. I like you because you bite babies in the face. And the guy will go, I don't like biting babies in the face anymore. Well, if you stop biting babies in the face, then
I think it's tied to let's call it the free for all of social media, where there's a guy, I can't remember, I think it's Kevin Kelly, talks about kind of 1,000 true fans. And the idea is that regardless of platform, and this was tied primarily when social media was growing, you have those 1,000 true fans who support what you do. And it's about getting them. Everybody else beyond that is like a bonus, but there's these kind of 1,000 true fans. I've always seen it as you have your community. You can't define them. So, for example, you as a comedian, you have your community. You have the people who will watch, you'll watch your stand-up or watch your show because there's something about how you do what you do that resonates with them.
Yes.
And even as you evolve, some may fall by the wayside, but there are those who are also kind of evolving with you or growing with you or developing with you. Where it's like, but there's something about Loyiso's essence that I plug into. And with podcasting, and I know you and I had a conversation where I was like, we should get you on the podcast. And you're like, I don't like doing podcasts. But what I found, and I think I said it to you that night, is doing podcasts or podcasting today, it's the particular podcast, there's a particular format that's kind of out there. And when you say podcast, people think of that. So it could be a Joe Rogan, it could be a MacG and Chill, et cetera, and it's like, okay, that's podcasting. So for average person, like that's podcasting. Whereas there's so many other types of podcasts in different formats. And I guess the rest of us survive on those 15 people who plug into or buy into what we're trying to do. And it's not, it's not sensationalist. It's just like it's doing the hard grind. It's plodding along and kind of building organically, as long as you're connected to kind of who it is that you are and what it is that you do. And I find that as a comedian, it feels like you do that. So how do you go about crafting your jokes and crafting like a one-man show? Or like when you did Unlearning, which was on Netflix. Like, what's the process of, okay, I'm going to do this thing now? How do you craft it? How do you put it together?
I mean, I generally don't overthink it as much. I generally try to, like, I mean, the show that I have now, I talk about being 40. That's it. Like I'm, and just like this idea of like, oh, I've just turned 40. It's on. Whether now I'm like, and I was thinking of this idea, like I was having a coffee and I was having like a biscuit, and I'm like, there was a thought in my head. I've never had this thought in my life, and the thought said, "Hey man, just dip the fucking biscuit in there." And I was like, "What do you mean?" You know what I mean? And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm 40," and I'm like, I have to live in that experience of just, I'm a 40-year-old, and what does that look like? How do people perceive that? And how do I play with that? How do I flip that? And how am I consuming music? So I think the theme now is just like, I'm becoming a grumpy old man and I'm enjoying it.
Welcome.
And so and I'm like, yo, you motherfuckers have to deal with my grumpiness. And on your mask it said, go, let's grumpy. And that's it. Like, that's my take. And it's like, like, in terms of approach, I approach each show differently. Sometimes I'm like, I'm gonna live in a theme, and sometimes I feel like I'm just gonna go find. I don't know. I don't. Your question makes me overthink my process, and for me the thing is so simple. It's like, just do it. Like, I just do it. I just get active. I write more. I journal the things that I'm thinking. I get into the mode of it, but I don't have a process. At the end of it, I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Now, what am I trying to tell them at the end? Now I'm like, okay, cool. I've kind of figured out the beginning of this thing. The middle of it is this juicy bit. Or like, now I'm 40. I got a nickname that I have on since I was 14. I hate this nickname. And then you're like, okay, this is the juicy middle bit. And then how do I end this thing? And what am I trying to say? And sometimes I can go on to 10 shows, 10 cities, and I still haven't figured out how I'm going to end the thing. Because I live in the let's do the thing. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. And I figure it out at home and I bring it on stage. And sometimes if you see my post, it will say work in progress.
Yeah.
And it generally just the honesty of like, yeah. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing here. Just go with me though. If you trust me, let's go. And then people are like, all right, cool, let's go. So I've done tours like that. And I specifically tell them like, yo, I'm working this thing out. And sometimes I've worked out like 90% of the show of like what I'm trying to get at. I've worked out 90% of it, but I don't know how to thread it all together. I don't have a beginning, middle, and end, but I have everything else. It's never one way. It depends on what I have at the time. And sometimes I have a beginning, middle, and end, and I don't have the bits that tie them out. So it's never one way. I never approach it. There's an artist, Alegane. She's like an amazing artist, and I asked her the same thing, and she's like, I just I have an exhibition, that's when I'll work and then I'll give it a title. You know what I mean? I was like, yeah. Sometimes it's not as deep as people tend to want to see it. But it's I just we have a thing.
Do you improvise a lot?
Not as much. I don't. Improv for me is. I do talk to the crowd sometimes, but I never unprepared. I kind of have an idea of like, I kind of lead you to where I'm trying to go.
Yeah.
As opposed to, let's see what could happen here. That's crazy to me. I used to do that a lot, but sometimes shows can just go haywire because the person just doesn't ever. So I'm always like ready with something, or I just move on or whatever. But I don't improvise. I don't improvise as much as a lot of guys I see on the internet.
Yeah. How's the internet? How did you navigate COVID?
I was at home.
Like most of us are, but
I was just at home.
Look, the thing I'm asking is because
I wore a mask.
It's been interesting watching
sanitized,
watching different people's approach, right? So, I mean, like Donovan, because he has this other, he's creative director, et cetera, he went and found kind of this space with his wife, Davina, to create certain things. There were, there's Tyson and Gobeni who had these characters, and they seem to live online, and literally online is what gave them, it feels like what gave them life. Like, and then there were other comedians who we just didn't hear about.
I don't have the pressure to always create. It doesn't matter. Some of life is for just living. Also, I had a Netflix special in lockdown. I shot that special in lockdown. That's why there's 32 people.
Yeah.
And I'm in this massive room. And it's because of like
the MoMA.
Is it
not MoMA?
Zeitsmoker.
Yeah, that's it.
I don't have an urge to always be productive. Sometimes I could like, hey, why didn't you pick up the call? I was living. I was in my couch doing nothing. And so I don't, so I did. I mean, any time you saw me talking on camera, there were a bunch of checks from different places where they were like, yeah, just stay afloat, here's some money. And then they would say, like, if you really go back, you'll find that there's mention of whoever, like the Department of Arts and Culture was like, here's some money, just entertain the people for a week, or like, that's, you know what I mean? That was that. But I wasn't sitting at home going, how am I gonna, I was like, okay, well, I've been traveling for the last 3 years, and I hadn't been in the same city for more than 2 months. And the Sunday, everything locked down. I was supposed to fly to Berlin on the Wednesday. So it was like, I'm chilling. I was also starting not to I enjoyed being at the place I was, but I didn't like the traveling as much. So it was I did think about it as let me breathe. in a way, I was like, let me breathe. Let me just chill at home. And I just renovated the house, so it was empty as well. It was such an interesting time because I have a friend, Temba, and he's an architect, a very meticulous person. And so when he was designing the house, he was really like going, and then you wash here, and then you this, and then this, and this, you cover it, and then we'll knock this wall, and if you've ever been to my house, you'll see the level of like design involved, right? But that was an idea of how I wanted to use the house versus now it's locked down and this is how I actually use it. So it was design versus functionality. So the first time he walked into my house after having designed the place, he was like, "Oh, this is definitely 60% of what I thought this house would be like." You know what I mean? It was such a crazy shift. Like how you this is where I want to shower. This is where I want, and then person comes back. You're like, yeah, we need to move the geyser from here to here because I'm using this space now to do this. Oh, we need to move this here to here because it the house now was actually for living, and I was there like for 3 straight months, and so you couldn't like go, oh, yeah, maybe I won't need that. I definitely need that cupboard. It was great. It was interesting. It was very interesting. But I did as little as possible. I wish I'd just gotten into shape. Like I started watching all the shows that I like. I watched The Wire again. I watched The Sopranos again, and what The Sopranos did, they made me eat so much because when I was watching it then, I didn't realize every scene they just where all the gabagool over there, and I'm just like, oh, okay, and they're eating gabagool. It's just then you're just watching this, you're hungry, and then at some point I'm making pasta from scratch. Then then I'm eating pasta for 3 days. I mean, for 3 straight weeks because I'm trying to get the spaghetti, but I can't go buy the machine to actually see. I was just like, I'm just living like, I mean, obviously you're like, how am I going to make a living? But then you're like, I'll be fine. If they take this house, I don't care. It's fine. And then halfway through the pandemic, they were like, yeah, Netflix wants to do a special. I was like, sweet.
You've always struck me as more of an introvert. Are you?
I don't know. I think I'm both. I'm not like one.
Or ambivert.
Yeah. I can be. It depends. If I've eaten, then I could, it depends. Sometimes it's like, did I do eat? If I'm eating, I'm good. Like, until I've eaten, I'm kind of like, ooh, okay. I think it's maybe like sugar levels or whatever. And then you eat and, pew, let's go. Because it's almost 2 and I haven't eaten all day. So I think my energy levels are starting to diminish.
Yeah, because I've always wondered, working in the spaces that you work, but also being as observant as you are in terms of plugging into, people, spaces, things. I mean, just you're talking about that difference between kind of design and functionality, and that's the fascinating thing for me around design, is because I also have friends who are kind of designers, architects. When I was younger, you just think about, okay, you put up a building.
Yes.
And then they would talk about, no, it's not just you put up a building. That thing is there for a very specific reason. But I find that the people who see a lot tend to be, generalization of course, but tend to be kind of more introverted and more comfortable in their own head, or their own spaces, not necessarily their own heads. That's why I asked the question.
No, the older I get, I am becoming a little bit more introverted, but I've got great social skills. I can walk in a room and make friends. I'm also, my temperament is a bit shitty. Like, it depends on what day you catch me, which is horrible for fame, It's like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like for fame, you have to be on all the time. It's like a person will never see you again. It's the one time you're like, I'm not in the mood for this. And I can't lie about, the only time I can lie about my mood is that if I have to perform. For some reason, I can switch it on. I can have an energy for an hour and do the best show sometimes. And when I come back, I'm like, I don't want to talk to nobody. So I generally, I mean, if you observe me long enough, your assessment would lead to probably introvert, because I don't roll, even career-wise, I don't have like a pack of people around me. I know like other comics, like if you go to their shows, the backstage is packed, and me, generally, I'll be the only one sitting there, and I'll have like, I don't know, like some actually a lot of places I can't even burn incense because of the fire alarms or whatever. But I just have like a bottle of water and a sandwich, and yeah,
which is probably why which is probably why I've seen you. I see you as that because we've met in multiple places.
Yes,
and generally you're alone. And
yes,
generally I'm alone.
Yes,
and it's just like, yo man, you good? Because I am more of an introvert. So I know how to navigate. I learned how to navigate public spaces, but my default setting and where I'd prefer to be is kind of on my own and at home. So
got you.
So even that process, it takes a lot out of me, like
of being out,
or being around people.
Yeah.
So literally, I will be tired, like I'll be physically tired.
Yes.
When I get home.
No, that's happened in my older ages. Yeah, that's definitely the case now. But I have days where I'm just like high-fiving everyone at the Pick and Pay, man. I'm not. And then I have days where I'm like, don't talk to me.
Yeah.
Like, but also people, it's timing. Like I get it. Like I get it. Like I can see if a person is not in the mood. You know what I mean? You just kind of gauge it. But like I said, with fame, it has like another tier of it where you're like, oh, you're supposed to be on. And like I always watch, there's two acts that are always on. One is Robin Williams, he's passed on, God bless his soul. God bless his soul. And Jamie Foxx. Jamie Foxx is always on. Always on.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I've never seen like Jamie Foxx knows how to, and I'm envious of that. Highly envious of that. I'm just like,
Well, I see that. Like I get tired. Like I'm already tired watching it.
Yeah. I'm envious. I wish I could just switch on. Like pop-ups also. Always like on.
Yeah.
Ready to go, good to go. And I go, bet man. You do that. But me, it depends on what day you catch me, how you catch me. Otherwise, it's but I'm not like I won't be like an ass or anything. I'll just but yeah.
So feels like you've performed a lot more kind of across Europe.
Yeah. I've been being in the UK, you get to see a lot of Europe.
Yeah. Why that route? Not because the dream for a lot of people was always kind of America. I don't know if it's America now, but it was always kind of the US. And with you, it felt very deliberate, that UK connection, and then kind of the European market more so.
It was, I mean, at the time when I was looking for management, I had UK management more interested in me than American. So that was the easy thing. That's like the simple answer. And then I was like, okay, maybe from the UK I can do America. But I think that's how I ended. When you realize how tiny Europe is, you just go, oh no, next week you're in Poland, or next week you're in Helsinki, and then you just find yourself in that circuit where you're like, yo, I'm in the Baltics, bro. I mean, like, what is this? I'm in Estonia. What's the capital of Estonia? Anyway, I forget. But where I was like, I'm in Lithuania. I'm in like, I remember I was in this city once, like 4 hours from Helsinki, called Kuopio, where the sun doesn't. I remember it was like July and the sun doesn't set. It was crazy. I was like, what? The sun just? They're like, yeah, the sun 5 o'clock just stays there until the next morning. Then I'm like, what? Yeah, when I experienced that, it tripped me out because I couldn't sleep. It just kept me like, but I was like, you know.
I think there's a movie with Al Pacino.
Insomnia, it's called.
That's it, yeah.
Yeah. I experienced that. That's crazy. Then you find yourself in Reykjavik, and then it's going to bother me what the capital city of Estonia.
I actually have a friend from Estonia, but I can't remember the capital.
Latvia. So if you're there, it's crazy. There it's so insane that there's internet everywhere. So like you're walking on the street and you're on this high-speed internet, then you get on a boat. Like a boat. You're like, what? Well, like you get on a ferry. You get, the bus has like, and you're like, what? But it's like high speed internet. You can stream. I think this is like even like 10 years ago, 10, 15 years ago, these people I was just like, they just
always connected.
Just always connected, which now, at the time, remember like how everyone was like, oh, the internet needs, now we're like, oh, you have to really unplug in those parts of the world because the internet is everywhere and it's quick. It's like, you go to places, they say they have internet. And I think everyone should like, if you say you have internet, like if you have speeds of like, those speeds where you're like, brother, can I just use my 3G or my 4G? This thing of yours is crazy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're like, so at that time, their internet was insane. So Europe is a very interesting place.
How do you navigate it in terms of your comedy?
I mean, a majority of Europe are very functional English speakers. When I say functional, they really just know English on a functioning level. They don't know how to decorate the language.
Yeah.
So if I say, let's play it by ear, they don't know what that means. You know what I mean? They don't know the terms so if you can simplify your language, then you'll be fine.
Because the human experience is the human experience.
The human experience is the human experience is the human experience. That is a very accurate assessment. But don't use wordplay. They don't know what you're talking about. They use it in a very functional way throughout Europe, whether it's France. No, I mean, there are groups of Europeans who speak English quite well, like Norwegians are very versed in the language, even like on, then you get to like Lithuania, they're like, my brother, just keep it. Finland, keep it, don't do crazy things with the language. I mean, I just got booked for a gig in Nice, which is crazy. I mean, I've been out of that circuit for a while now. Since COVID, I haven't really been back in that mix. I've been in the UK, and even in the UK, I just try to play in London. I'm like, I don't want to go to these small towns. I'm like, I don't want to go to like Shrewsbury, Now I'm in like fucking Shrewsbury. There's a castle that's 2,000 years old. I'm like, I hate all of this. I'd rather be in London. I don't come to the UK to be in Shrewsbury. I mean, I want to be in London. So I found myself just always being in London. Like, so, and on a good Saturday in London, my record is 12 gigs in one day. Where I'm just like,
are you serious?
Yeah. It's just like, because it's like, and all the promoters know each other. So they're like, most of them, you can just walk across, go there. And then go, but you start like from about, you start from about 2 p.m. Like the first, it's the best thing. It's like, that's how you sharpen yourself. You could work on a joke. By the time you go to sleep, the joke is because you've tried it like in one night 12 times. You're like, yo, this is amazing. And also like, I think like, sometimes I had to remind myself like when you think like your ambition, whatever, like, and I was like always just, I needed, like when you're like, I gotta do this. And I was like, when I first wanted to come here, I couldn't get open spots. Now every time someone books me, they're like, this guy's he's gotta close the show. And then it's such a crazy thing that you have to mark, like you have to go, I accomplished that. Before you even like go, I'm being ambitious of like, I want another special, and I'm like, no. When I made this decision to be here, like the geographical shift of my whole operation, I wanted to be a headliner. I can't now I can't shit on this idea because now at some point I'm like, this headliner stuff. I'm like, no, bro, not everyone can close this club. This is does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so I had to like also to like in that self-reflection, you have to like teach yourself to be observant of the things you prayed for. Not when you get it, now you're off. You're like, no. This is what you wanted. When this is the thing. It's here.
That's a conversation I've had a lot. Because my challenge with the world today is that we create these kind of pretty phrases and pretty words around stuff. So it's like, oh, celebrate your wins, be grateful for your wins. And maybe because I work with language, I get tired of these slogans that get bandied around. But it's taking the moment to recognize that you've accomplished something that you set out to do.
Yes.
And when I wrote my book, I've wanted to write a book for years, and I had imposter syndrome. Like, I've written thousands of words,
yes,
for different spaces, for magazine, all of these things, but I'd never written a book. A friend of mine said, yeah, but you had 2 poetry books. I'm like, I self-published them. My father gave me the cash. I got my friends together, like we did the cover. It didn't feel like a real, And then my book came out, and I remember talking to my publisher, and I was really like, I already have like 2 ideas for the next book. And she was like, yo, just like, yeah, the book is coming out. Enjoy it. Like, enjoy that moment.
Yeah.
Enjoy that moment before you start thinking about what's next.
Which is crazy. I mean, I've got this. I got a great book idea. Pieces of South African history that are relevant to today.
Yeah, I see it.
So you can go 3, 4. I'm so obsessed with history, like specifically South African history, and people, they very like they don't. There's so many specific things about which president was what they meant, how they shifted things, whether it's Jan Smuts, whether it's or out of town, all these people, whether it's Better Herzog, what was his gig? You know what I mean? Like, so I want to like it's like a detail in history that shifts the thing, or like where you like, guys, see here, I see you're talking about all of this,
yeah,
but can you look here quickly? What fascinates me? It's a bizarre thing. What fascinates me is white people's obsession with capital. Like how they think in their hearts of hearts that capital cares for them. It blows my mind. Where black people are like, oh, no, we know this. Where white people are like, whatever corporation is, they care. You're like, what are you talking? And it's and
when history has shown the total opposite time and time again.
Where capital, like, there's a very interesting, I don't know if you've ever read about the Rand Revolt.
No.
So in 1919, the mines in South Africa are not doing well. They don't sort their things out. In a year and a half, they're going to shut down. And, at the time, segregation specifies white people do all the jobs that are skilled labor, they get paid more. This is how the employment structure is sort of set up. Cool. But capital being capital, they go, these white people are costing us too much. That's one. We pay them 5 times more than blacks. And if we're being honest, blacks can actually do these jobs. So let's fire all the white people. And that's what happened. Because capital doesn't care about your race or whatever. Capital is capital. We're trying to make profit. And you must read up on the Rand Revolt. So the person who was campaigning at the time, the next election, I think, was 1921, and it was Better Herzog. I don't know who he was competing with, but he was in the Labour Party. And then he campaigned with this law that says no black person starting from my administration will ever earn more than, it's law now. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But until then, they had found safety in capital. What do you mean, bro? It's capital. Capital doesn't. So when you really think about it, you have no reason to dislike me because capital sees us the same way.
This is a conversation about class versus kind of racial segregation, etc., etc.
I mean, I think at the end of the day, you have to understand, as human beings who are not part of, all we have is us as human beings. So if you feel a proximity, like, yo, you think MTN cares about you? You think MTN cares about your race? you bugging out, bro. You like, you wilding. Like, if you think any big corporation really is specifically wired about, no, bro, those guys need to report. So this idea of always protecting your ganging up in race groups is slowing us all down. So this is I think Black people get the idea that all we have is us. And when I say us, white people are in that because it's us versus capital. And I'm not trying to, business is business, but I'm saying that how we treat, like, business is business, and business shows you time and time and time again that they don't give a fuck. But you gonna fight me, dog? Go fight Alexander Forbes. Fuck are you talking about?
You are listening to the Listen to Your Footsteps podcast, a podcast in which I chat to Africans from a cross-section of society and sectors, including art, culture, design, business, and creativity, to name a few. We delve into their journeys, the decisions they have taken to get to where they are, how they do what they do, and everything in between. Essentially, we go wherever the spirit takes us. Now let's get back into the conversation.
So I want to write like very, like, oh, this, like, even, it's so bizarre. Like I read A.B. Nkrumah's, he was the ANC president in the 40s, the whole of the 40s, from like, I think 1941 to 1952. When was it? Yeah, I don't remember the date, but he was all of the 40s when the Youth League of now. And in the book, he talks about like how the government of South Africa at the time, I think it was Jan Smuts was the head of state. All those Charlotte Majek, all that group of people, the first like core leadership of the ANC in the first 20 years, studied in America, and all this studying and traveling was facilitated by the church, and governments would be involved because they have to allow the visa. And in their minds, they're like, yo, man, they're going to black church, they're going to black universities, fine. But everybody came back way more radical than
when they left.
When they came back, they were radical. And then they were like, oh, we can't keep doing this. And so guess what they did? They built Forte. That will quell this whole situation. And if you look, historically, no one travels to study after that.
They all studied at Forte.
They all studied at Forte because they can contain it. So like for me, I go, oh, so when you grab all the biggest podcasts and you like, I'm quelling all you motherfuckers. It's crazy. It happens in two different things, but it has its wins in the sense that now education is accepted, but now a new conversation needs to happen.
Yeah, because it's about, I guess it's not looking at the symptom, and some things that we think are the cause are actually a symptom of something else. So, like you're describing, kind of all these people going to study in the US. If you're not taking the time to kind of look at the cause, you'll look at Fort Hare and go, Fort Hare is this great institution that educated so many. And yes, while it did that. It's
and also DSTV will do great things for podcasts.
It's recognizing why, or it's recognizing how it came about.
Yes. And bro, there's no real interest except all the leaders in the SADC region are going to be there. We get to monitor You don't come back here and surprise us with your ideology. We get to observe the ideation. That's the thinking. It's like now you have all the top podcasts in one. It's the same idea. Like, oh, come. Fees must fall. Hey, causing chaos. Come. I don't know. I think maybe I'm mad. I'm like cynical, you know. But that's my observation. So it's a book idea where you kind of write pieces of history that correlate to what's happening today. Because people also have a very weird idea of how to consume history. They never taught us that at school. Brother, no one's gonna teach you shit.
Yeah,
in
absolutely.
terms of, like, no one's gonna. And if they teach you, I learned history at school. It's like none of the things that I'm interested in my 40s were even sparked by what I learned in high school. Like just like nothing I learned in high school is a catalyst of what I'm interested in now. It's like, okay, Kez, Yamaribi came here. Okay. But there's a crazy book called Native Merchants, and it's like talks about how it's a very interesting book. It's about like the history of Black merchants, businessmen, the last 400 years of being quelled. Whether you were whether you were digging gold in your own accord and the gold is floating and the steel, like until like the 80s, where they're like, yo, brother, you're like, yo, man, this is crazy. 400 years of like, you can't operate, you can't own land, you can't do this. And you're just like, oh my God, you are exhausting, bro. And so it's a very interesting piece of history, like just the book. It's called Native Merchants. I don't remember the author, but it just documents like miners when the Portuguese come here and they deal with these miners, how they stop them from operating. It's just like, it's crazy.
This is what you spend your time doing.
I mean, I try to interest myself in things.
Yeah,
I've started reading novels, which I never used to do. I was like, okay, I gotta start reading novels. Otherwise, I'm just gonna be like this grumpy person who's pissed off at history all the time. Like, you motherfuckers are not.
So I've talked about this before with other people, where when I was growing up, I read a lot. So I was like a bookworm. And in my household, I used to get into trouble, not for reading, but for not reading nonfiction, which, as far as my father was concerned, was what was useful. And I just read, I just read fiction.
Oh, it's crazy.
And
that's very interesting.
Like, I devoured fiction. And my father, who was an academic, I used to get in trouble not because I didn't read. I read all the time, but because I didn't read nonfiction. And about 8 and 9 years ago, I'd realized that I'd gone so far the other way that I only read nonfiction. So I started reading fiction again. And for me, fiction it's like watching a movie.
Right.
It's an escape.
Right.
And it took me a year or two just to kind of get back into the space of, sometimes I'm just going to read something and I'm not taking anything away from it, other than maybe as a writer, some beautifully written sentences.
Right.
But I'm just reading this thing for the enjoyment of the experience. And then when it's done, it's done.
Can I recommend a work of fiction?
I read very specifically, but you can.
Freshwater. I just cannot pronounce it.
I'll check it out.
It is insane. It's good.
Yeah, I'm kind of very specific, even with stuff I watch. Like, I struggle to watch. Like, I realized when my son was born, it was still kind of scheduled programming. And I had my shows that I used to watch. So I used to love a CSI. So those first,
CSI is CSI Law and Order. if you're on tour, on the road, that is the best shit ever. On my life, wallah, you come home. I mean, you step into your hotel.
Without fail, one of them is playing.
One of them is playing, and or you just get involved. Each episode is kind of isolated.
Yeah.
Man, I've never appreciated CSI and Law and Order that much. I was like it kept. If I'm anywhere like doing shows anywhere on, whether I'm in like Lithuania or Bristol or Leeds. I remember one time I get to Leeds. I'm in Leeds. I get to my hotel room and I just click and I'm like, oh man, Law and Order. Like Law and Order was just starting, and you don't understand how happy I was.
Yeah.
Just an episode. I didn't have to figure anything out. It's like it's gang 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 gang. I'm like, that's my shit.
So for me, with that first like minute,
yes,
where it sets the whole scene,
yes.
I'd settle, put my son down, settle in, and then he'd cry. Or I watched the whole thing, and just when you're going to find out who did it, he cries. And gradually, like over the years, I start series and don't finish them. I'll stop in the middle of an episode, or, the penultimate episode. Like the climax is next episode.
Oh, really?
I'll stop like halfway through the second last episode. I'll be like, do you know what? I'm good. And then I'm done.
Yeah.
And so I find that as I grow older, also the way I consume, I don't have time or energy. Like I'll start something and I've always finished books, even if it takes me like 2 years.
Oh, really?
I can't not finish a book. That I still haven't gotten over. But everything else, like movie, series, whatever, I can put 50 minutes into a movie and then be like, yeah, okay, I'm cool.
Oh, shoot. No. I have abandoned shows. There's a show now that all my friends are like, what's it called? The Industry.
Okay, I think I've seen it.
It's a good show. I just don't see the stakes. Because I don't understand the finance industry and the intricacy they discuss it in, I don't see what's at stake.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's like watching football and not understanding the Atletico and Real Madrid semifinal.
Yeah.
You're like, what's at stake? I see them kicking this thing around, but what's at stake? You're like, no, same home, same they have a history of this. So I just don't. Sometimes I don't like. I'm almost done with the season. I'm almost like you. But my gripe sometimes like, what is at stake here? I don't care about what's at, or sometimes I'm like, I don't care about what's at stake. I watched something, Triangle of Sadness. Dad, you gotta watch. It's good. Probably one of the best movies I've seen in a long time. Triangle of Sadness.
Okay. I'll try it out. I won't promise anything. I get people recommending stuff, and I'm just like, yeah, okay, sure.
You gotta trust my There's a show called The OA. Only 2 seasons. You don't have to watch the second season. Those are my recommendations. Triangle of Sadness, The OA, and obviously The Sopranos and The Wire.
So I never got into The Wire, and then I tried.
The Wire is the one show that you have to get into.
It's one of those shows that it had to be. You had to be there. It had to be in that moment.
No,
I have tried to watch The Wire.
It's a slow burn.
I've tried to watch The Wire twice.
It's a slow burner.
Last year I got 8 episodes in, and then I'm just like,
8 episodes, and you were like,
I'm like, yeah, okay, well, it feels like you had to be there. Anyway, my man, thank you very much for coming through.
No, we need to pray for you.
For all your I don't know about podcasts, you seem to be doing well in podcasts.
I mean, I'll be in podcasts. What's the time? Are we good with time? How long was this? Did we talk for long?
Hour and maybe 20 minutes.
Okay, cool. And I had a sandwich in between. It was cool. Let me go enjoy my public holiday.
Thanks, my man.
People died for this day. Now we're in here. Should be outside enjoying the sun. People died. Yeah, that was fun. I had a good time.
Thank you for listening to this conversation. Please leave a review and subscribe. Check out the show notes for links to the guest, the podcast, and myself. I hope you enjoyed listening to the conversation as much as I enjoyed having it.